She wowed them at the convention, flopped with Katie Couric, was shielded from journalists, mocked by Tina Fey, and wound up perhaps the most polarizing vice presidential candidate in history. Now Sarah Palin is punching back against what she sees as a biased, hypocritical, rumor-mongering, and condescending media. In an interview with a conservative radio talk show host who's making a film about how the news business supposedly helped elect Barack Obama, the Alaska governor is folksy, feisty, and pretty darn ticked off about her treatment by the press. Virtually nothing was her fault. It was all their fault.
Frustrated, I guess, that I wasn't believed that, yeah, Trig was really my son. When did we start accepting as hard news sources bloggers, anonymous bloggers especially? It's a sad state of affairs in the world of the media today, mainstream media especially, if they're going to rely on anonymous bloggers for their hard news information. Very scary.
But is Palin peddling fact or fantasy? Joining us now in Washington, Jim Garrity, contributing editor at National Review. Roger Simon, chief political correspondent for Politico. And in New York, Kelly Goff, political commentator and author of Party Crashing, How the Hip-Hop Generation Declared Political Independence. Roger Simon, why is Sarah Palin picking at these scabs? If she runs for national office again, doesn't she want better coverage?
I think some of her briefers forgot to tell her that when you go on TV and go in front of the media, you get to do only the answers. You don't get to do the questions, too. And, I mean, was she treated that badly? I mean, she was asked what papers she read, really hardball questions like that. I think, by the way, she has a point about all the stuff about her baby. That stuff was over the top. There was no reason to believe that her youngest child was not her youngest child. And she does have the germ of a case that we are so driven by this get it now, get it fast, get it first, not necessarily get it right news cycle, that we will put anything up. But the lesson that the press has learned, unfortunately, is when we hold back, like Senator Edwards is having an affair,
it comes out anyway.
It comes out to be true.
Some of the coverage was unfair. I've said that all along. But Kelly Goff in New York, Palin talks about anonymous bloggers. There was a non-anonymous blogger, Andrew Sullivan, who has challenged her to release her medical records on the birth of Trig. Who else in the mainstream media repeated the rumors about Trig not being her baby?
None that I know of, although I'll say, Howard, off the bat that I'll try not to take it personally that she doesn't have a soft spot for we bloggers since I'm among them. But no, I think you're completely correct. I mean, I did read those rumors, but I wasn't reading them, in the Washington Post or the New York Times or the San Francisco Chronicle or even the National Review. So I'm not exactly sure, even from the bloggers from some of those publications. I mean, I was reading them on, quite frankly, tabloid websites.
Well, one
so
exception,
I'm not sure where that gripe is.
One exception was when the McCain campaign put out the fact that Palin's daughter, Bristol, the teenage daughter, was pregnant. The campaign said it wanted to put that out in order to knock down this rumor about the baby. So we sometimes explained that at the time. This was during the Republican convention. Jim Garrity is ripping the media as a bunch of rumor mongers and basically not very nice people. Is that popular with Republicans who might vote in 2012?
It's going to have some success. I just want to minor correct to what Roger said. She doesn't have a germ of a case. She has the Ebola virus in terms of the sheer variety. And, Andrew, it's not just that Andrew Sullivan is promoting this whole Trig was, secretly her child or other rumors. It's that nobody else at The Atlantic ever said, Andrew, could we get back to the real issues here? Could we do something a little more serious? So, in other words, look, Andrew Sullivan, all these guys, they're enemies to the right. They're people who are very disregarded. You're never going to lose any votes for trashing them. This is not going to be enough if she's interested in running in 2012. I'm not even sure she's going to run in 2012. But this is red meat for the beast.
Although Sullivan, let me just stop you because Sullivan never came out and said he didn't think it was her baby. He raised questions about it. Now, Roger, you picked up on the point about the Katie Couric interview. We all remember that did not go very well for Sarah Palin. The question about what newspapers and magazines did you read? Well, that was also included in this film, excerpts of which were posted online this week. Take a watch.
Even in the post-election interviews, Dave, that she's done, nobody's really asked her, why didn't you answer that question?
Because, Katie, you're not the center of everybody's universe. To me, the question was more along the lines of, do you read? What do you guys do up there? What is it that you read? And perhaps I was just too flippant in my answer back to her.
And Roger, you're not the center of everybody's universe either, but was that an unfair gotcha question by Katie Couric?
How could it get easier than what do you read? I mean, say the back of cereal boxes, say something, say the Anchorage Daily News, say the Wasilla, whatever it is. I mean, talk about a softball, talk about an icebreaker. I don't think it was meant to pin her to the ground. And I mean, Palin's answer wasn't too flippant, it was just non-responsive. She couldn't name one.
And just for the record, Katie Couric did not ask, what do you read up there in Alaska? the exact quote was, "What newspapers and magazines did you regularly read before joining the campaign?" All right, Kelly. Now, Palin was also complaining about Tina Fey. There we see her with Katie, making jokes about her pregnant daughter, and I could see being sensitive about that. But Palin later went on Saturday Night Live, and doesn't SNL mock Hillary and all kinds of politicians?
SNL mocks everyone. I mean, in fact, if there's one mainstream outlet that you want to say didn't give Obama a free ride, it would have been Saturday Night Live, which, as you'll recall, was pretty, actually somewhat instrumental in perhaps shifting the media narrative from being perceived as soft on Obama, because they mocked how they perceived the media being soft on Obama. So no, I think that Saturday Night Live is an equal opportunity offender, just like any good comedian or comedy is. I'd also like to say really quickly, Howard, that I don't think that conservatives can necessarily have it both ways, particularly Palin on this, in that, I mean, the conservative blogosphere is certainly no shrinking violet itself, and it was instrumental in spreading some not so flattering things perhaps about Obama and his perceived religious background, et cetera. So I think that the blogosphere, there's some criticism that could be had about the blogosphere from all political viewpoints.
Well, the problem is the blogosphere is a huge place with lots of people, and obviously there are excesses on both sides. Now, these questions, Jim Garrity, were asked by John Ziegler in these clips that we've seen. He is a conservative radio host turned filmmaker who's putting out this DVD called Media Malpractice: How Obama Got Elected. Ziegler told me that Palin had said to him that she didn't want to come off in this interview as whiny. Did she?
I would say, well, I think she's got a completely legitimate case. It never looks good for a politician to be saying, well, we would have won if it wasn't for the media. It's kind of like when, a football player complaining about the ref. Either you catch the ball or you don't. She ran for somebody who was not thinking about being vice president more than 2 weeks before she was selected. She did an extraordinary job considering the circumstances. Your VP candidate is very rarely going to take a candidate over the top. And the only 2 weeks that McCain was ahead was when he picked her. Right. She did her part.